Hi, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Andre The Beast Crayton Show. Today is going to be an excellent show. I'm happy. I'm at the control center. I'm running shit today. But not only am I running shit, I'm running shit today because I got one of my homeboys all the way from the 216 area code. You probably will recognize him from the podcast, the Fan Up podcast, which is like taking the universe by storm, where he's really taking you into the in-depth sports arena of the Cleveland area. And he's about to launch a new podcast as well. We'll get into that. Welcome to the show, the one, the only Bobby G. Welcome to the show, Bobby.
Thank you. Love that announcement. Thank you for having me, Dre. It's a pleasure.
You know, we've been sitting here talking for an hour.
That's what we do, man. That's our folks, man.
You know, it's funny when you talk about 216 because there's tons of stories out of the 216. Just before we get into the 216 in general, tell the viewers a little bit about Bobby G.
That says it all. 216, born and raised, 151st Miles Avenue. Actually, I was the first person in my family born. I don't know. The rest of my family's from down south, Alabama, Birmingham, Alabama, to be exact.
Right.
But just simple. I'm older now. We'll say somewhere in the 40s, okay, wherever that meter is. The 8 years in the Air Force.
Okay.
I was part of the last recruitment class of the millennium.
Wow.
And the first to graduate in the new millennium.
Wow.
So I went in, my exact date that I went in was December 29th, 1999.
What made you go into the Air Force?
Honestly, I just wanted to see if it was all it was cracked up to be. I was 22 years old. I was 22 years old. I'd lived a little bit of life outside of high school. And you know, you come to a lot of crossroads in your life, and that was one. I went to a recruitment office one day, had a good conversation with the recruiter. Actually, all three. It was Marine, the Navy, Army, and Air Force. I like what the Air Force was talking about the most.
What you didn't like about what you didn't like about what the Marines was talking about?
They just wanted grunts. The Marines and they wanted grunts. I don't consider myself a grunt. I'm a thinker, and I wanted more. So the Air Force and Navy, those two branches, you know, they're looking for guys who with potential, and I can't swim, so that made it easy to choose the Air Force.
When you talk about 216, I'm always going back to East 99, St. Clair.
No, I do not know Bones of Thugs and Harmony personally.
What is Cleveland really like? We hear about the East 99. We hear about the St. Clairs. I remember a story. Like I told you, I lived in Avon Lake, which is the further out areas of Cleveland, by Lake Erie, basically. But I remember one time going to this restaurant called Fireside, and it was an equivalent to our Indianapolis Broad Ripple. Really nice, you know. You sit outside, and I remember going across the railroad tracks as I left this restaurant, and there was a hit and run. I get out the car to help this young lady, and the other people just shot off, whoo, and they kept going straight.
Right.
The police came, and I remember the police saying this: "Where did they go?" I said, "They went straight, officer." He goes, "We're not going in there." And I go, "Why?"
And with the EC.
Yeah, he was like, "We don't go up in there." How bad was it for you in Cleveland? Did you live that type of environment? Were you exposed to that type of environment?
Yeah, but my neighborhood growing up was quiet. You know, I was raised by a single parent. My father passed away before I was born, so it was me and my mom for the most part. She dealt with an addiction problem, so I like bounced between either being with my mom or my grandmother's. My grandmother, she's the one stays 151st, always home. I can always go back there. But I actually did I lived in Euclid. It was like right next to EC.
I know exactly where that is.
Right next to EC. Yeah, you get exposed to a lot in Cleveland, and um, being from the inner city, it's it can be a culture shock for a young man. You learn to grow up fast.
Mhm.
Um, most Midwesters know whether you're from Ohio or Chicago or
Right.
Indiana. We learn how to hustle.
Yeah.
You learn how to get by. You learn how to survive. The survival techniques. So yeah, just growing up, that's what it was, man. Close knit. Cleveland is close knit, loyal,
It's funny that
loyal, a lot of loyal people.
it's funny that you said that when you mentioned I call them the boroughs,
Yeah,
Chicago,
yeah.
Illinois, Ohio, Cleveland, Cincinnati,
Mm-hmm.
Dayton, Toledo, Indianapolis,
Yep.
um, it's funny how the culture, our culture is almost intertwined because exactly what you said was what my father told me growing up. I had the privilege of residing both in the South in Georgia and in the Midwest. I saw the
Mm-hmm.
difference, but I remember as I got older, my dad was like, you're gonna have to, I remember the first thing he told me was, you're gonna have to understand street knowledge.
Yeah.
I had no street knowledge. I knew nothing about three-card Molly. I remember, yeah,
That was my first job.
I remember almost falling for it. You know what I mean? I was working at a Denny's, Mr. Dance, that's what it was.
Okay.
And the guy came in, and this is how dumb I was. He was like, I was like, oh, that's easy. And the other brother pulled me to the side and said, hey man, they work it together.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yep.
remember getting faked out with a Longines watch coming from K Jewelers, and the dude come up to me and go, "Hey man, I know you looking at this watch. I got one right here." And I'm not thinking at the age of
Mm-hmm.
18. He's like, "I got the same watch, yeah, bro. I get how much money you got?" I said, "I got $15. Give me, man. Come on, man. This is gold, man. Give you 30. Give him 30. I go back to my dad. Look, man. He's like, oh, you just got gypped." it don't turn green. But back to you.
Mm-hmm.
You 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 had the opportunity to go to the armed services.
Yeah.
My hat's off to you, to anybody that goes in, no matter what branch you went to. My hat's off to you for representing, and keeping me safe and my family safe.
Thank you.
Uh, you travel across the globe,
I did.
but you come back to 216. Why come
Mm-hmm.
back to the 216?
Because it's home. If you're not from Cleveland, and you hear everything, they call us the mistake on the lake. A lot of bad. You hear a lot of bad things from the outside. People dismiss us because the whole LeBron leave. Why would you want to be Cleveland? Or Joe Kim Noah? I think he went on
Right,
talking about Cleveland. Ain't nothing to do. But if you're from there, there's
right,
just something about the people.
right.
Uh, like I say, the community is really tight knit. They're loyal. They're supportive. Um, and there's just a certain comfort you get from being from there. And it's
Mhm.
like if you can make it through or in and out of Cleveland, you really make it anywhere.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that, and I noticed when I went to Cleveland, I had heard all kind of stories.
Mm,
I share you my story on what led me to Cleveland. It was a friend of mine that was good friends with LeBron's mom, Gloria, and
mm,
I really at that time wasn't a basketball fan. I'm more NFL. I knew about the
right.
Cleveland Browns, and when I went there, it was you felt the love right off the
Yeah.
bat. You felt the embrace. I remember sharing with you the first time I went to one of the restaurants there, which was Sandinko's XO. And I
Mm-hmm.
remember coming back because I was commuting. And every time I walked in that restaurant, I felt like I was a part of that Cleveland
Yeah.
home set. Any other, and it was amazing how when you would go to other people's establishments, you was treated like like you had never left,
Yeah. Absolutely.
and I love that. So you wind up doing, tell me a little bit about this outstanding podcast. It's been going on for a while.
Mm.
It's Fans Up podcast. Make sure you guys subscribe, like, and follow and listen.
Or
What
Game
what
Time 216. There you go.
how did that come about? How did that come about, and why isolated to just the 216?
Like I say, originally started as the Next Man Up podcast. Being a friend of mine, best friend of mine, started that. He unfortunately passed away, so I had to carry on. And I decided to start something new instead of taking that forward. Wanted what we did together to stand alone. So I asked myself that question everybody asks themselves: who am I? And like I said, deep down, I'm a Cleveland boy. So I love sports. I love talking sports. Even though I am well versed in other areas, I feel sports is a great uniter of people.
Mm-hmm.
If you think of all the tragedies that have struck our country or even the world, one of the first things that usually brings people back together is sports, man.
Right.
And so that's really how it started. It's Game Time 216. I'm a universal fan of sports, so I actually got the Game Time from the Chicago Bulls, even though we are bred to hate the Bulls in Cleveland. But Game Time 216, man, everything Cleveland, from Browns to now Guardians, I guess, the Cavs, the
Right.
good, the bad, and the ugly. And it's just my way of sharing my hometown.
As a we talked about your best friend and keeping his legacy,
Mm.
his ambition. Let's take a moment and share a little bit about your best friend and why how important was this for him. And nobody can tell his story better than the one that he spent the majority of time with creating this outstanding podcast and your other future endeavors. Share a little bit about who he was to the viewers,
Oh yeah,
his impact on you.
his name's Shaka Ike. We honestly met through another favorite pastime of mine. I'm a semi-pro amateur poker player, however you want to say it.
You like
And
to
we
gamble.
actually we met at the poker table, and just it's one of those things where I'd beat him in the pot, he beat me in the pot, and like now in this particular tournament, we were like the two best players at the table, and just tit for tat, and the friendships struck up from there. But yeah, he was a great guy. Um, he was just starting to come out of his shell. We had a big brother little brother type of relationship. I was older than he was. Um, he was born and raised in Reno. I relocated to Las Vegas, Nevada. We met in Vegas. He was born and raised in Reno. He was a former basketball player. Played at JUCO at the Northern Iowa JUCO. Um, yeah, great guy, personal trainer. Struggled with bipolar disorder, which, like I said, he was just coming out of a shell, just expressing himself, being comfortable talking about mental health, which is something that we used to touch on the podcast some as well. We did something that we called Fit Fridays, where we would discuss things like this that in our community as Black men that we don't usually talk about,
Right.
or we're taught not to discuss. You know, you gotta, hey, man up. You
Right.
know, don't cry, don't show emotion. Um, we 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 were comfortable enough, and he was comfortable enough in himself, or becoming comfortable enough to open up, share his experiences, and like I say, man, it's he will be missed, but he is a part, whether he's here or not, of everything that I do and will do going forward.
When you talk about fan up, and we talked about this, let me read let me redo this. What are some of the disappointments
Yeah.
that you've dealt with as it relates to the sports industry in Cleveland, that, you know, from the time that you started this podcast to now, that, and more importantly, what are some of the issues that you try to bring to light? Because believe me, people are listening to your podcasting, especially in Cleveland. What are some of the things that clearly needs to be addressed with a city that has had multiple first rounds? They was the first team as far as the expansion.
Yeah.
Great coaching staff. We talked about it, that created legacies as the Bill Belichick's and the Nick Sabans and so forth. You've been around long enough. What are some of the disappointments that you've seen with Cleveland that needs to be addressed?
Or you can go back and say I was born in the 70s, so the 80s were kind of rough for Cleveland sports. And Cleveland, Ohio in general is a football state.
Mm-hmm.
Football rules. Um, we've had like the drive, John Elway taking out the Browns teams of the 80s, lost three out of four AFC championship games. Our teams would get right there.
Mm-hmm.
And the pardon my French, the now Guardians, formerly Indians, had great teams in the 90s that would get right there. It lost the World Series to the Braves in 90 and 97, lost to the Marlins in the World Series, but we could never get over the hump. And it was just Cleveland. You would thought that the city was cursed. They just no team could get over the hump. Hadn't had a championship since 1954 in any professional sport. So kind of the city was kind of bred in that defeatist attitude, or being like the running joke to other sports fans. If you remember the great comedy movie Major League, was about how terrible the Cleveland Indians were.
I definitely remember that.
Absolutely. Shout out to Wesley Snipes when he made saves. But so there's this attitude of or the saying, there's always next year in Cleveland, because that's what it's been there. But now, ever since, and I was 2016 when the Cleveland Cavs brought the first championship. Thank you, LeBron. The attitude is starting to change.
Right.
And now it looks like the Cleveland Browns are going through a culture change. But my message through the show is, as a fan base, we also have to be a part of that change. We got to get rid of this defeatist attitude.
Right.
Don't, it's like, show me your past and or tell me your past, I'll show you your future.
Right.
But you can change that if you change the way you think and the way, change your outlook on things. So we got to bring that positivity to affect positive change. So even though, there's a lot of negative history in Cleveland sports, I think especially this year's team this team represented the city of Cleveland like no other.
You're talking about adversity, the Cleveland Browns?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. The adversity that they fought through this season, when they could have packed it up at any point during the season.
What's your take? And I'm not going to throw nobody up under the bus. I realize
I'll do it.
I realize the NFL is a business, and the NFL also means not for long.
Yes, sir.
There was big controversy with the Deshaun Watson and paying him that amount of money for a franchise quarterback. Don't get me wrong. I'm not talking about what he did. This ain't right. I'm talking about from a football standpoint. I've always felt that Deshaun Watson is a proven caliber player. He showed it in college. He showed it with the Texans, and he hopefully will get a chance to demonstrate that on the field with the Browns. You're there. What was the atmosphere like behind the scenes when he got there? Was the city like really embracing that particular deal? Because you guys had Johnny Manziel, who now, you know what I mean. I think Johnny Manziel is a good quarterback if being put in the situation to be good. He's got that opportunity where he's at.
He had no chance. Johnny Manziel had no chance of being successful. By his own word. This is by his own word. He was not mature enough to put forth the effort to be successful.
Right. You guys got Deshaun Watson. What was it like there with that particular pickup?
It was rough because you had to keep in mind, we're getting rid of Baker Mayfield, who some people grew to love because he took the team to the playoffs for the first time in a very long time, since 2002. So it's like 18 years. A lot of people fell in love with him. His bravado, thought he represented the city well. And you're chasing him off to bring in this guy who has some off the field issues.
Right.
Not to mention, and there's always, and it's slowly changing, but we know the stigma that the black quarterback has faced.
Right.
And Cleveland doesn't have the best history we'll go with race relations.
Okay.
We'll just leave that where it is.
Okay.
So you have a team
We saw the
getting rid of.
movie The Draft.
There you go. You're getting rid of the quarterback who people love, which already fractured the team
Mhm.
or the fan base, not the team, the fan base. To sign a quarterback who have to, whether again, they half are going to hate him, half are going to be able to separate the player from the person.
That's hard for a lot of people.
Exactly.
That's
Exactly.
really hard because they need to understand this is still a business.
Right.
That's why he's being tried here. But
Mm-hmm.
this is his job.
Yeah.
Can he deliver the same performance that he did in college, that he did with the Titans? I mean the Texans, and now he's in Cleveland.
Yeah.
So people
And
had a hard time really
yeah,
transitioning as far as what you're saying.
absolutely. And like I said, the fan base was already being fractured because you're chasing off a QB who people fell in love with because of what he did.
Mm-hmm.
And like I say, even if you fast forward from then to today, it's no different because now you got Baker Mayfield. Guess what? He's still in the playoffs right now, and the Cleveland Browns are at home. Uh, so you still have that they call them the Baker Bros. As supporters of Baker Mayfield, you still got and look Joe Flacco.
Yeah.
People would love nothing. I'm not gonna say everybody, but the people who can't separate would love for the Browns to bring him on and somehow find a way to let Deshaun Watson go. But that's where I come in with. But you can't question the guy's talent.
What do you think is
We,
if you was in charge, if you was in that seat, this is the draft. This is the remix of the draft, the movie. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do, Bobby?
from this year or back then or from today?
From right now, you
From right
win,
now.
and what do you do to correct? You're in the draft board. The combines is here. What do you do now? You're now the new movie part 2 to the draft.
Well, Deshaun Watson is definitely quarterback. That there's no discussion. I'm not bringing Joe Flacco back because that's too big of a shadow for him to play under. Every mistake he makes, everybody's gonna want the backup QB to be in.
Mm-hmm.
So sorry, people. I know you love him, and I appreciate what he did this season, but he's got to go.
Mm-hmm.
Deshaun's the guy. You're paying him $230 million. He's the guy, but you got to get him help. We need, if anything, that blowout last week showed us. We need some speed. We need some guys who are threatening on the outside of the field.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm drafting all wide receivers.
Well, what about your defense? I mean, did what's his name? The guy that put his foot on somebody's helmet.
Myles Garrett.
I mean, do you get Myles Garrett some help?
Yeah, I'd like to see him get a couple of young, but I think we have it. Like they've shown that they have the ability. At home, they were one of the best defenses, not only in the NFL, in the history of the NFL. The problem was when they went on the road, they were Jekyll and Hyde.
Yeah, I was gonna say, did they show up?
Right. So we got to that's a problem with consistency. How do we fix the consistency? That's where you get your coaching staff to step up. You got to motivate these guys. You got to keep these guys motivated week 1 through 16, not just week 1 through 8. But personnel wise, they know they can be successful. So I'm not worried about the defense. They know they can be successful. On offense, though, we need that consistency. I need Deshaun to remember who he is. Almost like a Black Panther. To show them who you are.
And come out there and play.
Yeah, show them who you are, T'Challa. As soon as he remembers that and is able to play free, understand that he's gonna be criticized no matter what.
Right.
That's just his life from now on. Understand everything
you
you
bed,
do.
you got to lay in it now. You got to prove
Absolutely
something different.
be able. Yep. The old what was it? The Beats headphones commercial.
Yeah.
You put those headphones on, man, and just remember who you are. Remember why you play the game. Remember why you love to play the game. And remember that you can be successful at playing this game. You see the team, what they can do without you. Now add yourself, and what can they be?
you have a podcast that focuses on the sports arena in Cleveland.
Mm.
From a outsider looking in, do you how much do you think the owners, or should the owners, take in consideration the fan base? And we're gonna go into another area with that in a minute. But
Okay.
what's your take on that? Because here's a team, here's a sports town that love
Yeah,
their teams.
absolutely.
Don't you think it's just important for the owners to pay attention to what the fans are asking for?
No.
Why?
And respectably, no.
Okay, why?
Because I always thought about that. I always thought like if I owned the team, but you can't. It's just like any other business. Take yourself. Yeah. When you go home and you're looking to relax, you're talking to your friends or something, your friend may say, "Hey man, I checked out the show and I noticed this, that, and the third. Maybe you might want to try that." Do you take it into consideration? Sure.
Yeah.
You listen to it, you may analyze and look for yourself, but that ultimate decision lies with you. Is what's successful for your business. And this is we can't spend those millions for him. He's spending the money. It's easy for us to say, hey, you should do X, Y, Z, but he's digging into his pockets. So I can't be concerned with the outside noise. I have to do what I feel is best for my investment. At the end of the day, it's an investment for these guys.
How how are the people in Cleveland adjusting to the new era in basketball?
Basketball, love the what do you say? The Guardians and the Browns have the Cavs to thank for the reason that the fans are so relaxed right now. That 2016 NBA championship kind of took a little bit of pressure off of both teams, but now uh it's time for them to get going. But basketball wise, people are energized, but I think people have too high hopes for what the roster is capable of right now. When we
Right.
made the move and acquired Donovan Mitchell for the fan is short for fanatics. I'm a
Okay.
fanatic of the sport. And like I told you, we were talking pre-show. I keep it a buck.
Right.
Acquiring Donovan Mitchell did not make us championship contenders. Sorry
Okay.
for the fans who thought getting him we could win a championship. No, but it did. It did put the steps in motion for us to get there.
Okay.
Donovan's a great player. Now, last year was about learning what do we have. Okay, we have a solid point guard. We got Donovan. We got Evan Mobley, who we think can be a star. We got Jared Allen's nice big. Okay, now what do we need to put around these guys? This season is about learning more. We made the playoffs. We got bounced in the playoffs. That's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is learning to compete on that level. We've been to the playoffs. How do we get better? Next season is about competing for a championship.
How do
Got
you
to take baby steps.
how do you get the top players there? We talked about this. People talk about the college portal. I
Yeah,
shared this with you. LeBron James was the original portal for sports. He created the portal
yeah.
for the best to go there. How do you get the best to come to Cleveland, where the king once played, where he laid the red carpet? How do you get these players in all the different sectors to come and build that market?
Right. Unfortunately, small market towns like Cleveland, Portland, uh, Indiana, Indianapolis, you have to build a foundation first, and then you got to go trade. You gotta take those chances and trade, which we did with Donovan Mitchell. Now we got to make one more move.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sorry, Cavs fans. It may cost us a guy like Evan Mobley. People are high on him, but he's the biggest commodity we have.
Right.
We can offset him and we get another star to go with Donovan and Darius and Allen. Now you're talking, but it's really trade. And for the smaller market teams, the bigger names, they're not going to want to come there because the companies are pushing these guys in different direction.
Right.
Nike doesn't want a guy in Cleveland. They want a guy in New York. They want a guy in Miami. They want a guy in LA. They want a guy in Dallas for to a lesser degree. But
But let's say at the end of the day, you get that individual that takes you over the top. And I think we shared this off camera.
mm,
At the end of the day, this is what I'm seeing with professional sports. And I get it. There's no T in the game anymore.
no,
If somebody's going to get you over the top, there's no guarantee that they're going to stay there anyway.
No, you
There's
have
no
to.
loyalty in any other thing. We're now, I think, why do you think people aren't seeing the big picture? The bottom line is it's about dollars and cents at the end of the day. It's not about loyalty to any particular organization. So why is any organization willing to do that?
Or you have to break the mold. And I'll give you the perfect example. Milwaukee. You got to break the mold. Don't make it about business. They treated Giannis like family ever since they drafted.
Right.
First, they maintained a competitive roster.
Okay.
That's first. I'd like, if you want to got to stay, they want to win. You have to make it possible for them to win. Second, oh, your brother plays basketball. Sure. Instead of wasting a spot for some guy who isn't going to play anyway, hey, we'll put your brother on the team and get him a check. You know, like you really have to cater to that. He's on the team. Everybody knows it. That's literally the only reason he's on the team. But it's things like that. How you take care of these guys. Who knows? Behind the scenes, the owner may even be giving them financial advice. Hey, we're paying you this. Let me show you how to turn this into da 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 da. Like you got to treat these guys like family. So you, as an owner, have to break the mold and don't treat these guys like commodities. Treat them like people. That starts right there.
You are definitely a true 216 fan all the way. What's it going to take for Cleveland to really rise above and get back and break this so-called Ohio curse in your book?
On the football field, patience. And again, it's like we just literally starts with the owners. The Browns owner, the Haslams have shown themselves to be impatient and kind of meddling. Like step back. You hired these people to do a job, let them do their job.
Mm-hmm. What about basketball?
Basketball, timing. It's all about timing. Boston has a great team, great roster. The Bucks, just mentioned, always competitive. Philly's an influx. Philly, they could be on the way down. It just takes timing.
What about
We can't get Boston this year. We might be able to get them next year or the year after.
What about baseball?
Baseball. An owner with money. An owner willing to spend some money. That's like that's the one. They probably bother me the most of any Cleveland team because from the 90s on, even to today, we've had some of the most talented baseball players in the game. And they're only here short term because we can't give them the big contract. The only way we got a player to stay Ramirez, but he took a massive pay cut. He could be making $300 million somewhere. We got him to resign. I don't know how for $150 million. But there's that loyalty. But they treated him like a person. He loves it. Yeah, you come to Cleveland, you'll love the city. And he fell in love with the city and he wanted to stay. But you can't build a team. You can't expect everybody to take a pay cut. Eventually, you're gonna have to cut a check.
You got a podcast show. When people call in, what are the three biggest questions that people address to you on your podcast as it relates to Cleveland and Cleveland sports?
You
only get
they
three.
They want to. Most people just want to they want to know why listen to me, like why me, and I have a couple connect. I don't speak on them. I'm learning. as a new podcaster, not a qualified, not a journalist technical, but you still want to abide by certain rules.
Mm-hmm.
So learning the game and learn, I try and keep connections under the wrap. But people wonder, why did I listen to you? Sometimes I just want to, what X and X told me to do my outfit. Now go shove it. That's why. But just getting people to trust you. They'll ask why should I trust you, and building that relationship with the audience.
When your audience talk to you, what is one of the main concerns that they're addressing that you're hearing constantly about Cleveland in general, the sports aspect of it?
Just like you just said, how do we get people to come? How do we get people to choose Cleveland? And it's probably hurts more so in basketball, because basketball is more flashy. In football, the players, um, they're not the type to really, because I guess it's because football is a winter sport,
Right.
so it doesn't matter if you play in LA or Miami. You're gonna summer wherever you're gonna summer anyway. But yeah, basketball. How do we get people to stay? How come we can't get this? We just saw the Pacers make a great trade for a Pascal Siakam. How come the
Right.
Cavs can't do something like that? And it's like just got to be patient and let the process play itself out, man. Trust people to do their job.
You got a new venture coming out, new podcast. Um, Tell the viewers a little bit about that and when is it supposed to air and what's the brains behind this new series.
I just want to do something different than traditional stats sports. I can spit stats all day. I can spit the technical jargon all day about sport. Like, I'm a true fanatic as well. Not only played, I actually coached while I was in the military. Coached basketball for 2 years.
Okay.
But started something new where I want to get more uh culture, community focused as well as sports, kind of balance.
Mm-hmm.
So to be called Audible, to be myself with my co-host Lamar KC Marr. He and I did a Thursday night football recap throughout the season that we just ended, and we were like, just thinking, how do we continue? Do we want to continue, or do we want to start something fresh? We both determined we want to start something fresh, but we wanted to just get away from just stats and shove it. We wanted to be free flowing conversation, just like you walk into the barbershop.
Hmm. How can when can the viewers expect for this to launch, and how can they
Next,
tune in and listen to it?
absolutely. Next Friday, we will stream live every Friday at, make sure I get the times right, 4:30 Pacific time, which is 6:30 Central time. He's in the Central time zone. I'm in the West Coast time zone. And like I say, we'll stream live every Friday from those times. We're gonna go for about an hour and a half, or about an hour and a half to 2 hours, because we both like to talk. Who are we kidding? And we both have a lot to talk about.
How can the viewers reach out to you and learn more about this particular show in general, the Fan Up Podcast Show?
Absolutely, across all social media platforms, game time _ Bobby G. And don't worry, I accept all the smoke. Get at me. I reply to everybody and everything. I stand on what I say, and I say what I stand on.
Bobby, before we wrap up, first of all, let me say thanks for taking your time out to come and share
Oh,
your
absolutely.
podcast and share your views on the Cleveland. I love the Cleveland people. I love the Cleveland area. They definitely need to embrace what you're doing there for them. The sports teams are legendary. I don't think there's a curse. Probably what we talked about, maybe mismanagement,
A lot
but
of that going on.
but they're not bad. Lead the viewers with something that beast mindset that only you can bring to the viewers.
I give you two. One is something that I don't share with a lot of people. It's very selective, but I'll ask you. I'll start with a question to you: chess or checkers?
Chess.
Okay. Most people pick that, and here's what I say to that: remember, there's a king on the checkers board too, and he's much more powerful than the king on the chessboard.
Wow. What's the second one?
Second, I'll have an instruction for everybody, and something kind of me and my brother from another mother shock started on our Fit Fridays. Go through your phone, people. Just do me this one favor. Go through your phone, find somebody you haven't talked to in a long time. Call them. Don't text them. Don't hit them on Twitter or Instagram. Actually go through your phone. Say, man, I haven't talked to this person in so long. Give them a call. Hear their voice. Let them hear your voice. Yeah, you feel a lot better, man. Communication relieves so much stress, and that's one of the first steps to maintaining mental health, a good mental health. So yeah, just reach out to somebody randomly, even if it's just a 2 or 3 minute conversation. Just say, hey, haven't heard from you in a while. Here's how I'm doing. How you doing, brother?
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been no other than the host of the #1. I'm already throwing it out there. The #1 podcast, Fan Up, Cleveland's own 216, Mr. Bobby G on the Andre the Beast Crayton show.